grocery shopping at Walmart to save money, we're sorry to break it to you, but you're not saving as much as you think. By now, you probably already noticed that grocery prices are on the rise in each and every store, but a new report reveals that that's especially true at Walmart, despite its low price promise. The editorial team at Trading Pedia analyzed the price increases of 34 grocery items at Walmart over the past 2 years, and they found that prices on most items have significantly surged, with many of them soaring by more than 100%. No wonder why, in October, roughly 90% of Americans said they're worried about the rampant cost of food, a separate survey found. And yet, we're being told to expect a brand new wave of food inflation in early 2023 as the compounding effect of lower food production and supply chain challenges further exacerbate the cost of living crisis in the United States. That's what we're going to expose today. But before moving on, please support our work with a thumbs up in this video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Food prices in the U.S. are going through the roof. Over the past couple of years, American families have seen their monthly budgets steadily shrink as the cost of daily necessities continue to grow. While we can hold off on discretionary purchases or take the bus instead of driving, food inflation is virtually impossible to avoid, considering that there's only so much you can cut back on while still meeting your daily needs. Overall, the cost of food jumped by 12.4% in the past year. That's the highest annual increase in 23 years, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Prices for groceries shot up 13.5% in the past 12 months, and eating out is 8.6% more expensive as restaurants hike their prices to pay for their own rising food costs. Consumers are trying to stretch their dollars as much as they can, and they've been looking for deals and discounts that only big food retailers can offer. However, a recent report showed that at the stores of the retail giant Walmart, whose 60% of revenue is made by grocery sales, prices are not as low as most of us would like to think. Brian McCall, a financial analyst at Trading Pedia, crunched the numbers for the most common foods sold at the stores of the world's biggest retailer, and the results he and his team found were quite shocking. To track food inflation at Walmart stores, McCall analyzed 34 grocery items in 6 different categories: meats, fruits and vegetables, beverages, condiments, dairy and eggs, and canned foods. They used a web archive tool that allowed his team to see what the prices were 2 years back. Then we calculated the percentage of price increase of these 34 products and compared it with the increase in the average weekly earnings of all employees in the U.S. over that same period, he wrote. The idea was to understand how the consumer purchasing power in terms of buying grocery items has changed during this period, McCall explained. The analysis found that over the past 2 years, the retail giant charged 31% more for a package of chicken breasts, while a package of 18 eggs cost 126% more, and a gallon of milk soared in price by 150%. The dairy and eggs category saw the biggest jump at an average increase of 70%. Sweet onions also saw a dramatic increase of 165%, while an 8-pack of Pepsi shot up by 67% compared to 2020 prices. On average, the price of Walmart's meat and seafood rose by 22%, while vegetables rose by 29%. Olive oil prices grew 48%, and tomato sauce saw a 57% surge. On top of all that, a recent viral video showed a Walmart employee replacing the cost of salad dressing at the chain superstore from $2.24 to $7.88. Now that's an increase of more than 350%. The video, which has over 3 million views, was shared by shopper Sean Connor on TikTok, who said he was stunned by the sharp price hike. In the comment section, one retail worker explained, "Fuel prices are going up, so is the cost of food. Suppliers are requiring more money to ship food, and the food companies selling it are passing on these costs." According to McCall, the basket, including the 34 grocery products analyzed by his team, would have cost $153.08 a couple of years ago. Today, the total price of all of these products would be $186.02, marking an increase of 21.5%. On the other hand, when comparing those price increases to the average weekly earnings of all employees in the U.S., the researchers found that consumer purchasing power for grocery shopping decreased by almost 6% during that same time span. A similar report by retail analysts at J.P. Morgan found that in the last quarter, Walmart raised prices the most among top food retailers. Walmart's pricing advantage versus the other food retailers eroded this past quarter, the report noted. While the official inflation rate for grocery store prices rose by 3.2% in the 3 months ending in September, overall prices increased by 5.5% at Walmart in the third quarter. Target and Kroger were close behind at about 4.5% each, followed by Albertsons at 3.9%. The rising prices at Walmart stores are having a major impact on its customers' grocery bills. And in recent statements, the company's executive said that double-digit food inflation has hurt sales in other areas of its superstores and will continue to do so for the rest of this year. The company said earnings per share for its fiscal 2023 will fall about 11% to 13%, coming in below the latest Wall Street estimates. So at the end of the day, the retailer's bottom line is being hurt too. Food retailers typically pass along the price hikes imposed by food manufacturers, but in a year when big names such as Kraft Heinz, JBS, Tyson Foods, and Mondelez announced price increases between 30% to 70% in a wide range of products, there's only so much retailers can do to keep prices low. For years, food manufacturers generally raised prices in small steps, worried that big increases would frighten consumers and send them looking for cheaper options. But over the last year, the cost of the raw ingredients used to make treats like cookies, chips, sodas, and the materials to package them soared, so these large food corporations started passing along these expenses to supermarkets. But amid growing concerns that another recession is starting to unfold, some of these food companies are continuing to raise prices, even if their own inflation-driven costs have been covered. The recent earnings calls have only reinforced the familiar and unwelcome theme that corporations did not need to raise their prices so high on struggling families, said Kyle Herrick, the president of Accountable.us, an advocacy organization. The calls tell us corporations have used inflation, the pandemic, and supply chain challenges as an excuse to exaggerate their own costs and then nickel and dime consumers. Meanwhile, Walmart noted that higher grocery prices means that customers had to slow down spending on other categories like clothing and electronics as a result of food inflation eating into their paychecks. The increasing levels of food and fuel inflation are affecting how customers spend, Walmart CEO Doug McMillon said in a press release statement. McMillon warned that he anticipates even more pressure on spending through this year's holiday season. He said that the company is planning to switch certain products in its deli, lunch meat, and dairy sections to lower-cost items, since inflation could cause more customers to cut back on spending on premium brands. According to insiders reporting, the decision is likely linked to the fact that Walmart stores are not able to sell pricier products fast enough, which led Walmart to pause its internal automatic ordering system in recent weeks. Boxes of unsold products have piled so high in some stores they block access to bathrooms, the report revealed. At this point, The cost of living crisis has become so painful that now middle-class Americans are turning to discount supermarkets. In October, about 75% of sales growth at dollar stores has been fueled by households that earn $100,000 a year, demonstrating that even the middle class is seeking better deals, as noted by global data retail analyst Neil Saunders. Times are tougher, so consumers' desire for value and low prices is playing into the discount retailers' hands, he added. A study released by insurance company Breeze found that soaring prices already pushed a respective 73% and 62% of U.S. households to cut back on restaurant spending and groceries. At Dollar General, sales rose by 12% last month, reflecting the reality of Americans still strapped for cash. Pocketbooks are stretched, Saunders continued. People have less discretionary income or less disposable income to spend on things, and so they're looking for value. However, buying cheaper is also not much of a solution given that no-name or budget food items have been seeing some of the most drastic price spikes. Research from data company Numerator found that grocery prices at dollar stores rose by 14.3% from 2021 and 22.5% from 2020. At the same time, foot traffic rose by 20.4% at Family Dollar, 28.2% at Dollar General, 34.1% at Five Below, and 13.7% at Dollar Tree compared to a year ago. To make things worse, one of the main aggravators of food inflation is still plaguing most retailers, according to a recent survey from the Food Industry Association, a trade organization that represents food retailers and wholesalers. The survey found that supply chain problems are getting worse, not better, for U.S. food retailers. Last month, 70% of retailers said supply chain disruptions are negatively impacting their business, up from 42% the year before. Increases in consumer demand, labor shortages, and trucking and shipping capacity restraints continue to interrupt supply chains, retailers told the organization. These problems have persisted throughout the pandemic and are still causing shortages ranging from potatoes to canned goods to frozen fruits and veggies. A shortage of workers also slows down the food production process. Labor shortages continue to be an issue for the food industry as a whole, as workers seek better paying positions or less arduous jobs. The dwindling supplies at many stores are continuing to fuel price increases. That's why experts for the FMI are telling shoppers to prepare for a new wave of food inflation early in 2023. Consumer food businesses will continue to pass on recent rises in their input costs as a result of slower food production, they wrote. Since the losses caused by crop failures, the bird flu pandemic, and the decimation of the United States beef cow herd are just starting to appear in our food systems, they continued. When the consequences of those disruptions become more noticeable over the next few months, the impact on prices will be significant, they said. All of this bad news is coming at a time when about 90% of Americans are already concerned about food prices, according to a survey conducted by the Harris Poll on behalf of Alpha Foods. At the start of the year, concern was highest around gas prices, followed by groceries and other forms of discretionary spending, said Abby Lunny, managing director at the Harris Poll. But in the last couple of weeks, groceries have become the number one concern for Americans. We're hoping that we don't return to the 1970s and early 1980s inflation eras, added the Street's analyst Jonathan Heller. As a kid in the 70s, it meant shortages. We reused paper lunch bags, switched to powdered milk for a while, waited in gas lines. Sadly, the outlook doesn't seem very promising, and with layoffs on the rise, even the biggest food charities in the United States are already suffering with rising prices, massive growth in demand. According to Feeding America, non-profit network of more than 200 food banks across the country, food charities all across the United States will enter this holiday season with their resources strained. Soaring food prices and a drop in donations mean many food bank warehouses are more thinly stocked than in recent years, said Katie Fitzgerald, the charity's chief operating officer. Many food pantries report they are busier now than they were during the worst of the economic shutdown during the pandemic in 2020, Fitzgerald said. With the demand being so great, the supply being so short, and inflation being high, it's just a perfect storm for long lines at the bank, San Antonio Food Bank's president Eric Cooper told USA Today. Among Feeding America network food banks, more than 40% are running a budget deficit in their attempt to have enough food. And that is just not sustainable, Fitzgerald said. With no end in sight to increasing food prices, millions of families are already having to skip meals and take on debt to cover their basic necessities. Many more will be forced to make exceedingly difficult choices in the months ahead as the cost of living crisis escalates. Another dark winter is about to begin, and all signs suggest that 2023 will be a year of severe economic pain all over the nation.